Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about glute activation, but not just about activating your glutes, actually making sure you can tell and feel that they are working when you run, because this is something that can be quite a common mistake. We're able to locate and work our glutes and do glute exercises, but it doesn't necessarily automatically follow through that when we run, we're also using those muscles, those very important muscles, throughout our run and for the full duration of the run as well. So to begin with, I'm just going to show you how to activate your glutes and some of the key things that you can use to ensure that you're doing the exercises correctly. So we're going to get into a bridge position, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So we're flat on the floor, pushing our heels into the floor, knees are bent obviously. What I want to think about now is just engaging through the core here. And I always like to do this by thinking about the distance between the ribs and the hips and imagining that's consistent all the way across. And we're just very slightly and lightly pulling in to feel a nice solid core holding us still. Then we're going to push the heels into the floor and lift up the hips. And the key thing that we want to do here is we're lifting up until we feel this hip joint lock out. That's very important, because when this hip joint locks out and won't flatten anymore, that's the point when you're able to put maximum contraction on your glutes. One of the mistakes I see very often, and I've made it myself in the past, is lifting up and arching my back to try and get higher, thinking that the higher is better for my glutes, but actually my lower back starts to do the work here. So this is why it's helpful to really focus on engaging the core, keeping this distance between your ribs and your hips the same from here to here, and really focusing on instead, rather than the height, then lock out in your hip joint here. When you can feel that that's locked out, you really want to focus on squeezing the glutes hard until you can feel them burning. And it's not a nice feeling, but that's where you need to get to. And once you can feel your glutes burning, the next thing I want you to do is just check in with the left and the right. Are they burning and working to the same level? Because sometimes we can find that one side works harder than the other. We want to be able to identify and correct imbalances like that. Okay, so just to help us work a little bit more on the left and right, and just to check that they're functioning well and equally, we're going to just change the version of the glute bridge. And this is a good activation exercise that you can do as part of your running warm-up, something I always do all the time. So we're going to lift up, just lifting, changing my angle so you can see better. So we're doing the same thing, engage the core, lock in, lift up, let's feel that joint lock out here, squeeze the glutes. Now we're trying to maintain this height and maintain the stillness here, and we're lifting up one leg at a time. So as I lift up one leg, the glute on the opposite side has to work really hard to stabilise my body. So you can see I'm really trying to be still as I do this. I'm really nice and slow, nice and controlled. Think about that lockout, think about the stillness, and thinking about each glute working hard. If you've got a weaker side, you might find it hard to maintain the height, and your back wants to arch a little bit to help you, to cheat your body. So just be aware of that if it's happening, and don't let it. It's better to sink a little bit rather than put pressure on your back, but work towards being able to keep those hips level and make the work going through each side even. So we all have imbalances. I find it much easier to stabilise and engage the glute on my left because I'm left-handed. I do have to work a little bit harder with my mind to actually control it and make it work in the same way on my right, and then down. So we've done those two exercises. Great, but we don't run like that. We don't run in that position. What we do, we run in this position, which you know. And what we have to now be focusing on is our ability to push this leg back. And you see how the shape of my glute changed then. As I'm pushing back, that's my glute lifting, contracting to drive my foot back. And this is what we then want to make sure we're doing when we run, getting that engagement here and being able to, when we push our foot back, when we're driving forwards, the glute is doing the work for us. That's really important. Now to do this, posture is really important. So we need to be engaging our core in the same way that I showed you before. Shoulders back, head on the top of your shoulders, not forwards, key, really important. And really being in this position. And as we drive back, we're engaging the glute. So it's very important when we're in this position to be able to maintain that core and just be able to drive back and feel that glute switching on. And this can just be helpful again as a little bit of a warm-up drill. So we're not allowing that distance between your ribs and your hips to change, otherwise we end up doing this. If you just swing your leg back without thinking about it, can you see? You want to keep tight here and then drive back, lift the glute, squeeze the glute. Okay. So that's an important thing to be thinking about when you're actually running, and learning how to maintain this core is key, and knowing that we're locking out on that hip joint so the glute can contract. When we lose our posture or bend forward, we're bending here, we're losing this here, and we're not getting that same engagement of the glute as we would do when we're upright. So another way that we can train that is with an exercise on the floor to really build up the strength of our core and its ability to hold us in this really nice neutral spine position while we're pushing back. So to really be able to familiarise ourselves with that feeling of engaging the core, maintaining neutral posture and pushing back to engage the glutes, we can do some more exercises in the gym that are going to train us to do that. So the first one is beginner's one, which would be on all fours, engaging your core again so you get that nice sensation of your ribs and your hips pulling in slightly and being the same on both sides and pushing back and not allowing yourself to lose this engagement here and do that. So that's wrong. That's losing the engagement of the core. Sorry, my hair's in the way. Engaging here and pushing back, no movement through the back is correct. So that's getting used to this idea when we're moving. We can make this a little bit harder by engaging, doing a straight arm plank. Really take that time to engage your core to begin with, squeezing on both sides, and then we're kicking the leg back. And we can do it on both sides and alternate. So you shouldn't see any movement through my core. And I'm really starting to get used to this idea of pulling my leg back behind me and using my glutes. So there are a couple of ways of training that, getting better at controlling it, understanding how you have to be using other muscles in your body to stabilise your posture, to be able to access the glutes for your run. And then the last thing is when you're running, you just have to keep scanning yourself, keep checking in. Are my shoulders back? Is my core engaged? Can I feel my glutes working? Do those few things when I catch my breath and you'll find that you get better at engaging your glutes and using them when you run.